We are very privileged tonight to have with us the president of both the Mario Lanza Society of New York and the Mario Lanza Institute in Philadelphia. Without further ado, I give you Bill Romaine.
What we're going to be talking about today is Mario Lanza's early years. Most of you are probably familiar with Mario Lanza, the movie star, and I felt that not too many people know about his beginnings, other than he came from Philadelphia. So we'll talk about that today. We're also going to be hearing some very rare recordings, private recordings, and some radio show appearances that he made, and also a very famous concert. Mario Lanza was born Alfredo Arnaldo Pocozza on January 31st, 1921, to Maria and Antonio Pocozza in South Philadelphia. Maria and Antonio were Italian immigrants from the Abruzzi region. He was from Figliano and she was from Tomba di Casoria. As a boy, Mario sang along with his father's Caruso records, and after hearing him, his parents took him to a local baritone for an evaluation. They heard a beautiful voice coming from the singer's studio, only to be shocked to learn that it was their son's, and not another student. It was recommended that Freddie, that's what he was known as, even when he became Mario Lanza, he was still known as Freddie to his parents. It was recommended that Freddie not take lessons until he was a little older. When he was 19, he was invited to sing the Bacchino Ave Maria at St. Mary Magdalene de Pazzi Church in Philadelphia, about a block and a half from where he was born. In March of 1940, he made some private recordings for his parents' 20th wedding anniversary and his father's birthday. And we're going to hear one of them now, the song Perché. Remember, he's only 19, he still has a lot to learn about singing, but there's a natural voice there, as you can all hear. Freddie began vocal studies with Irene Williams in Philadelphia. She also had connections at the Academy of Music and with high society. One day, Serge Koussevitzky was at the Academy of Music.
The concert was over. Once we got into one of the dressing rooms. This particular dressing room was opposite the one that Serge Koussevitzky was using. Now, he was, I'd say, halfway dressed and halfway undressed, and finally these people, Mr. Huff particularly, who ran the concert that night, told me, now you start to sing. There was a piano, as there are in each dressing room, so I started to sing what I call my lucky aria, and that is Vesti la Giubba from Pagliacci, the opera by Leoncavalli, di Pagliacci, to be specific. Just when I finished the aria, he put both arms around me, kissed me on both cheeks in true Russian style, as he was a Russian man at that time, and he said, "You will come to live with me in the Berkshire Festival." And then he kissed me on both cheeks. It was terrific, and he embraced me. And I realized at the moment that something terrific was happening in my life, in my career, the beginning of the life of a career. And this was the beginning of the most glorious period of my life. I made my debut in an opera called The Merry Wives of Windsor by Nicolai. The critics and the managers, the agents who were there in the audience, just went wild with applause. The following day, in headlines in the New York Times, appeared LANZA, born to sing. And from that point on, I was in. I signed with Arthur Judson, who was the greatest manager. He signed me in 1942, and one day later, after I signed with him, I received a letter and it said, "Greetings from the President of the United States of America." And that was the beginning of 3.5 years in the Air Force. You see? So, quite a story.
Mario would sing, he would use Mario Lanza, but he was still officially Alfredo Capozzo. Following his study at Tanglewood and before entering the armed forces in December of 1942, Lanza worked with Metropolitan Opera baritone Robert Weedy. Lanza's talent was immediately recognized, and he was put into special services where he sang in numerous shows including On the Beam and Wing Victory. Many of you might remember Morse Hart's Wing Victory restored the country and played at the 44th Street Theater here in New York. In 1944, while in New York, he made several private recordings at the Melatonin Studios for patroness Maria Maggielli. We'll hear one now. This is Lucky Army. Mario is now 23, but you can hear the voice that's soon to take the world by storm. Barbara Cocozzo was honorably discharged on January 29, 1945, and married Betty Hicks, the sister of an Army buddy, on April 13, 1945. In June of that year, he came to the attention of RCA, which is now known as Sony, but it was still RCA Victor, and he made some test records, and we're going to hear one of them now. The beautiful EHICH van der Stelle.
Luce alle stelle ed le sole terra stride all'uscio dell'orbo e un passo sfiora l'arena entrate la fragrante braccia